Hello, I'm Johnny Cash.
Chris Christopherson. Y'all know my pal Jim Varney.
Welcome to Willie Nelson and family's 10th annual New Year's Eve party. Coming to you live. Man, Willie's been singing up a storm, man.
Sounds great, yeah.
Looks like it's going to be one hell of a time.
It's going to be a big one. And because New Year's Eve doesn't just happen in the South, although I was 10 years old before I knew that, we'll be going live to Times Square, New York City for the ball drop.
John, does that mean that New York's voice is going to change?
Hey, will you look at all those people? Man, and New Year's is still about 50 minutes away in New York.
It's shaping up to be a fine time right here in Houston. There's so much talent here that one stage wasn't big enough, so we had to have three. B.B. King, Waylon Jennings, Jesse Coulter.
Listen, that's a lot of heart and a lot of soul out there on that stage here. Boy, I tell you what, it's a righteous way to bring in the new year, ain't it? Hey, did you make any New Year's resolutions?
Yeah, I'm not going to wear black anymore.
How come?
It's time to lighten things up. How about navy blue?
I think that's a remarkable leap of courage, John. If we want to talk about blue, let's talk about the king of the blues. Here's the one and only B.B. King.
I think it's about time we checked in on the folks up in New York City. Let's go to Times Square. What do you see, Jim?
Well, there are a lot of people there, John. They look cold. Many of them appear to be wearing hats. Some are taller than others. I noticed these things, John. It must be my FBI training. Know what I mean?
Must be. Let's go back down to the stage of the summit right here in Houston.
Happy New Year, Richard.
Hey!
All right, Willie. Hey, there's just about 25 minutes to go until New Year's on the East Coast. Let's go to Times Square, see how the folks in New York are doing.
Thank you, New York, and have a happy New Year yourselves.
Waylon's just walked over to Willie's stage.
What's he doing?
Hey, Earl Campbell.
Hey, Vern. It's me, your old buddy Ernest, and the folks at HBO needed somebody to explain this to you. So they got me, Ernest P. Worrell. So I'm going to explain it. You ready, Vern? It's me. Now listen. Okay. Ernest P. Worrell is going to tell you. Listen closely. It's just about 20 minutes until New Year's Eve on the East Coast. Now, us folks in Houston are going to celebrate the New Year's twice. Once for Houston, the center of the universe, and once for the rest of the country. Now, if you're watching on the West Coast, we're on a 3-hour time delay, Vern. So there'll be a tape delay, and we're live everywhere else. Are you with me so far? Comprendo? So when it's midnight in New York, it will be midnight in L.A., except it will really be 3 a.m. in New York. Now, Chicago and Houston are on the same time zone. So when it's really midnight in L.A., it will seem to be 11 p.m. in Houston, but actually it'll be 2 a.m. in Chicago. Now, if you're videotaping this, it could be July, and that don't matter. Now, you following this? How about you, Chris? You want me to repeat this for you?
Ernest, that's the most confusing damn story I ever heard in my life.
Okay.
I'd like to mull over it a while with John. While we're doing that, I think we can listen to Willie Nelson doing another set.
Go, Willie.
Are we allowed to mull on HBO?
HBO.
Mull.
Yeah. Martin used to mull.
It's just about a minute and a half to New York.
On what airline?
Surely you can't mean that.
What's that?
Surely you can't mean that.
Of course he means it, and quit calling him Shirley.
Did you say Shirley or Shirley?
Surely you can't mean that. Of course.
Happy New Year, Richard.
Happy
New Year,
Mama.
Baker. Hi, Mama.
Happy New Year, Betty Ford. I thank God for 1984.
Hey, how about Hey, look at
It's
here.
less than 1 minute to New York.
On what airline?
Here comes the New Year creeping across the azure Atlantic. And it'll be New Year's in less than 1 minute.
In less than 40 seconds.
You know, this year they changed the ball to an apple.
I hope that
We're
sucker
going to have worms.
Well, listen here. people. I think a few of them.
Have you ever seen so many people in your life?
Not at one time.
Yeah, we got the countdown coming up there.
Well, we sure do. Now let's hear it. We got 15, 14, 13, 12,
11,
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year! Happy New Year, too.
Happy New Year, New York.
And a Feliz Año Nuevo for John Rodriguez and all of our people.
And from David Allen Coe, Happy New Year.
And what about Earl Campbell,
Earl
whose boots
Campbell,
you're
thanks for
wearing?
the boots, Earl Campbell.
And
Look
Happy
at all that
New Year,
TV.
Muhammad
Happy
Ali.
New Year, New York.
I say,
We're having a big one down here in Houston. We hope y'all are having a big one over on the East Coast, up in New York, and all them good places.
that's a connection.
Before we get ready for New Year's in Houston, what do you say we take one last look at New York?
Hey, how come things aren't breaking up there?
Well, because breaking up is hard to do. Things are breaking up. Somebody's breaking up a fight. Somebody there's breaking up a store.
There is.
And there's a guy there just breaking up.
There's a guy
I
getting
think you
mugged.
heard something funny.
No, he's being mugged. He's not.
And we saw it live.
Hey, they ought to go home and see the rest of their show here.
There's still a lot of party left here in Houston. And Chris, you know, I think it's time that you and I went down and
I
joined.
thought you'd never ask.
Let's
man.
go down and
Get
join
the hell
party.
out of here.
Hey, Jim, fill in for me, will you?
You
Be
be
glad
brave.
to.
Last question about B.B. King. Waylon was talking. I overheard him talking to you about B.B. King and how he was really envious that you'd gotten B.B. together for this show. And what kind of sparked your mind to do that?
Well, I'm a fan, first of all, and I really had never thought it would be possible to be on a show with B.B. King because I always had him up on such a high pedestal that I never thought I would be in that position to be on a show. One night I was in the Exit Inn in Nashville, and Waylon, myself, and Jesse and Connie and all of us were there, and B.B. was playing, and he and I met that night and became friends, and he does a song of my Nightlife, and so now we've been on tour with each other the last several days, and every night I've got to go out on the stage and play Nightlife with B.B. King, and I'm in like a dream world, because every guitar player in the world, or a blues picker or singer or what have you, is going to be real envious of me up there playing guitar. I know Jody Payne and Grady Martin, who are in my band, you know, they're having the same thrill because here's B.B. King.
I co-wrote Wanted Man with Bob Dylan, yes.
Can you talk about that experience a little bit?
Well, it was Bob's idea. He had the idea in about 4 lines, and we were in my living room when he came down to do Nashville Skyline album. And we wrote the song in just a few minutes there in my living room. As I say, it was his idea. He would have probably written it without me, but as it turned out, we co-wrote it.
And you also wrote the liner notes for Nashville Skyline.
Yeah, he asked me to write the liner notes for that. And the title for the album came about in a strange way. We were driving to Nashville together from my house, and we were about 5 miles out of Nashville. And he asked me, said, I don't know what I'm going to call this album. He was almost finished with it. And we topped the hill, and there's Nashville Skyline. I said, how about that for a title? Nashville Skyline. He said, that's what we'll call it.
Okay, the first time I ever saw Johnny Cash, I was in the Army. I had gone to Nashville on leave, and in fact, I was in uniform. Mary John Wilkin took me down on the Saturday night to see the Opry, and he was backstage there, and he was the most exciting looking performer I guess I'd ever seen. He looked real dangerous at the time, about 100 pounds lighter than he is now, and he looked like a driven, tortured killer of an artist. He looked almost like, you know, like Hank Williams or something up there. And I told Mary John, I said, "That's one guy I have to meet." I always wanted to stay in the background up to that point, but I forced myself out and shook Johnny Cash's hand, and it probably had a lot to do with me going back to Nashville, because I was in heaven there, you know, backstage at the Opry with all the artists that I've been listening to forever.
Let's go back to some of the little earlier times, back a few years, the Luckenbach days. Do you still visit Luckenbach, first off?
I've never been to Luckenbach, Texas in my life. I thought maybe I may have gone through there one time, but and funnier than that, the guy who wrote Luckenbach, Texas, never been there either one of them. And I know some people from there, but I've never been there. That's good. Almost sound like a sacrilege, don't it?